The scene opens amid the chaos of a battlefield, where a massive stone creature is pounding the earth relentlessly, while a shield-bearing warrior struggles to keep it at bay. The tension is palpable, yet it quickly becomes clear this is just a modest-level dungeon known as Margol. The shielded fighter receives a direct blow to the face. Someone behind him shouts to stop absorbing hits like that and to learn how to deflect the attack sideways. At that moment, another group leaps into action, announcing it's time to strike. One warrior slashes the beast, prompting the entire team to surge forward and assault the golem from every angle. Their assault enrages the creature, causing it to unleash a fiery red aura of power. The smaller shield-bearer warns the group to exercise caution as the beast has entered a berserker state. He instructs them to stay close to him for protection. Mages immediately begin casting spells, while one cap-wearing sorcerer shouts at the clueless figure at the rear to pass over some mana, as he's completely drained. That clueless fellow is Hanjun, an underpowered hunter whose sole skill is channeling mana to others. His blank expression and unimpressive ability make it obvious he's the story's protagonist. Not only does he wield a weak skill, but he must also perform a whole ritual just to transfer mana to allies. The golem suddenly lunges forward again. This time, our protagonist efficiently hurls mana onto his companion's back, enabling the ally to cast powerful magic and swiftly defeat the creature. Though it's a low-level dungeon, the entire team looks completely exhausted after the battle. Then this muscle-bound guy storms up to Hanjun and snarks that since he hardly contributed to the raid, the least he can do is clean up the mess. The group begins to question why someone with a crippled healing ability is stuck playing the role of mana support. The guy in orange points out that technically the kid is an attacker, but his only skill generates mana, and not just any mana, but virtually unlimited mana. Honestly, that ability feels broken, even if the kid himself is weak. The other guy's thoughts exactly mirror this. But then he clarifies that in this world, mages can also draw mana from priests, so that skill isn't all that unique. The dude wearing a cap adds that this is probably why this useless guy hasn't even reached level 30 after 5 years. He's been busy swinging a pickaxe instead of leveling up. Hanjun internally frowns, realizing these jerks are deliberately speaking loudly so he can overhear them. Regardless of what they say, he's determined not to back down. The scene then shifts to the imposing headquarters of the Great Sage Guild. With his hands sliding across the desk, the protagonist demands an explanation for why they're suddenly trying to transfer him to the production department. The elder responds solemnly that, regrettably, Hanjun must accept there's no one left in the company capable of keeping pace with him on hunts. At level 29, you simply can't maintain professional hunter status when all you possess is a single mana generation skill. Hanjun tries to make his case as invaluable, highlighting his near-limitless mana supply and the milestone of reaching level 30. However, the man dismisses this, noting that most mages and healers already possess mana absorption abilities. Therefore, whatever Hanjun brings to the table is nothing extraordinary or particularly advantageous. Questioning why hitting level 30 would make a difference, Hanjun adjusts his glasses as the man explains that the higher-ups have already made their decision, so it's best for him to accept it. In that moment, Hanjun realizes that refusing to comply will lead to his expulsion from the guild. Later, sitting on a bench, Hanjun recalls the man's final words. Unfortunately, they just don't see any potential in him. There he sits, bewildered and unemployed, wondering how he suddenly found himself in this dire predicament. Most people mistakenly believe his power is simply absorbing mana and redistributing it to teammates, but it's actually more nuanced, though naturally, Hanjun has never revealed the full truth. Staring at a piece of jewelry in his hand, a prompt appears asking if he wants to duplicate the item by pressing Ctrl+C. He selects yes, and a flash of light signals the action. Suddenly, the jewelry materializes as an exact duplicate in his palm. That's right, Hanjun effectively wields copy and paste abilities, much like the commands on a computer. He copies, then pastes, embodying the essence of a Windows user. The catch is, any item he copies vanishes instantly the moment it leaves his grasp. This means he can't exploit the skill to duplicate overpowered gear and amass wealth like a top-tier player. Even worse, duplicating something as simple as his modest dagger requires him to be at level 90. So what is he doing to assist others right now? He duplicates his own mana, retains the original, and distributes the copies to others. Because he holds onto the original, his supply never diminishes. He experimented with copying other abilities before, but they all demanded absurd and impractical conditions. His sole desire is to gain a few additional levels, that's all. Once that happens, his life will finally transform. However, the moment he can duplicate equipment, the game changes entirely. That's a whole new level. Then he notices breaking news on his phone. The Kalisha Dragon's longsword has just been delivered to Japan. This weapon is insanely rare and outrageously powerful. Using it immediately boosts your level by 200. I've played countless RPGs, but nothing this overpowered or broken. The only catch, you must be at least level 30 to wield it. He instantly picturing himself wielding that sword. If he could simply copy it once and keep that copy forever, boom, he would jump to level 230. However, the sword has just arrived in Japan and its durability is extremely low, meaning it will only last a few more hunts. Because of this, it's being displayed rather than used in battle, making this theoretically his ideal opportunity to duplicate it. What he urgently needs is to reach level 30 within the next week. A few days go by and now I have no clue what this creature is. Looks like some type of flying bats or perhaps gigantic blood-sucking mosquitoes. Wait, 6 legs? That probably means spiders, but honestly I don't know why I called those creatures bloodsuckers with rows of teeth. They're downright lethal. This place is an unregistered dungeon, not sanctioned by the guild. A blonde guy glances over his shoulder and asks someone to hand him some mana. Our dear Haruto is there, doing the one thing he excels at. Thanks to him, the man unleashes a massive flame, engulfing everything in fire. Meanwhile, our hapless hero can only sit and reflect on the vast gulf separating him from the others. He sneaks a glance at his stats window, silently hoping he's leveled up. Suddenly, another man appears behind him, telling him to stop staring at his stats. Nothing's going to change just by watching. Hanjun excuses himself, explaining he got momentarily distracted. The man then warns that if he keeps loitering, he'll have to pay a spectator's fee to enter the dungeon, which translates to buying a beer after the run. At least this guy's laid back, which of course means he's doomed. His name's Akia. Let's count how many seconds he survives in this tale. Despite the risks, Hanjun feels a flicker of hope. Sure, it's an unregistered dungeon, but here he finally has a shot at leveling up. They press deeper into the cave's shadowy depths. Suddenly, one member halts and commands the group to prepare. They're approaching the queen's chamber. There she lurks, concealed behind a towering pillar. A colossal beast nestles amidst a clutch of eggs. This is Alexa, a level 80 spawn. Yikes, that's definitely a foe just beyond our protagonist's current strength. He's already convinced that a single touch from any of those legs would instantly turn him into vapor. One of the guys asks why Hanjun looks so terrified. Isn't he supposed to fight? The spider seems easy, but you have to stay vigilant. If you get caught in her web, you're trapped until she devours you whole. Also, better avoid the eggs. Those aggressive little creatures could hatch any moment. Then the blonde guy snaps at the leader to stop explaining everything like Hanjun's some clueless tourist. So Hanjun just stands silently, doing what he does best. Then Blondie, being the genius he is, stomps forward angrily. He kicks a rock straight into the spider's web. Immediately, the queen awakens and lunges to bite. The tank throws himself in front of the attack, shouting they're doomed now, all thanks to this reckless mage. But this guy is a beast. He blocks the strike and even chops off one of the spider's legs. He orders everyone to scatter and avoid the eggs at all costs. The entire group launches attacks on her from every direction. Swords fly straight into her open mouth. Meanwhile, Hanjun hides behind a pillar. It's kind of wild, they're actually making a dent against a level 80 boss. Suddenly, the spider spins around and aims her abdomen at the group. The tank yells for everyone to take cover behind the pillars. But the blonde fool is already charging up another fireball, bragging about how they've defeated her countless times, so there's nothing to fear. He unleashes his attack, and web-covered bombs explode everywhere. They slam violently against the cavern walls. His fiery spell collides without causing any apparent damage. He keeps shouting about his pride, determined never to abandon this assault. Our protagonist attempts to warn him, but it's already too late. The man persists with his spell casting. The tank wearing a headband yells at him to stop before the eggs hatch. Yet Hanjun senses that the situation is beyond recovery. All the eggs begin cracking open simultaneously. The tank tries to speak up, but he's struck, slammed violently into the ground by a blast. At that moment, Iguana appears, shouting that the attack is coming from every direction. Sure enough, webs shoot out in all directions, ensnaring everyone and pinning them to the floor and pillars alike. I hope Blondie is the first casualty of this reckless decision. He screams desperately before being crushed under the weight. Our friend Hanjun is now stuck against a pillar, forced to watch his companion being devoured. Place your bets. Option 1, he levels up at the last moment, duplicates the skill and saves the day. Option 2, a stunning giant heroine appears to rescue him. Or option 3, he dies foolishly and the tale ends here. After the spider finishes destroying his friend, she lunges at Han-jun, slicing through his webbing and sending him hurtling backward. Blood erupts from every wound on his face. Just then, the system prompts him to paste the skill he had copied. With a sly smirk, he reveals that his ability isn't as useless as it seemed. While other elements vanish after copying and pasting, he deliberately avoids that. Thus, every time he ventures into a dungeon, he creates a backup clone of himself. Just like in a game, when he dies, he instantly reappears somewhere new while his old body disappears completely. Damn it, I placed 56 bets and not a single one turned out right. It turns out his copy forms within himself, essentially making him a walking clone. So whenever he dies, he simply respawns immediately. He dies only to respawn again repeatedly. Now he's crouched behind the pillar, battered and broken, unable to die, yet trapped with no way to escape. Then he spots one of the others still ensnared in the webs. It's the leader of the group we knew was doomed, pleading desperately for help. But Han-jun realizes there's no way to save that man. Meanwhile, the boss is ruthlessly demolishing everything around him. Han-jun decides it's time to try something risky. He's furious that after all this effort, he might die without landing a single blow. Just as the boss launches an attack, Han-jun swings at her leg, successfully deflecting the strike. At that precise moment, he gains experience from landing his first successful hit. Finally, he levels up, but just as he glances at the notification, bam, the boss delivers a devastating blow straight to his chest. Once again, he respawns, effectively copy-pasting his existence anew. The problem is his attacks still have zero effect on this boss. But our crafty protagonist is about to execute a Ray Zero-style strategy no matter how many times he must die. One day he will defeat this monster. The creature strikes again, and Han-jun charges forward, quietly muttering that, scratch by scratch, he'll eventually prevail. After 3 days of countless deaths and most of his teammates' weapons breaking, Han-jun has grown significantly stronger. Meanwhile, the Spider Queen's condition is visibly deteriorating. She remains unable to recover from the wounds he's inflicted. She unleashes another barrage of webbing with renewed determination. But this time, he effortlessly evades, having adapted to the velocity of her attacks. She lashes out again, he leaps, scales her leg, and swiftly ascends to her head. Screaming relentlessly, "Just die already!" he thrusts his sword directly into her brain. Instantly, the blade snaps in half like a fragile twig. She hurls him off, slamming him into the ground, and then unleashes a deafening roar. Just as she prepares to bite, cracks begin to spiderweb across her form. Her health depletes entirely, shattering her into countless fragments. Han-jun lies sprawled, utterly exhausted. After so many lives lost, his mind feels like scrambled mush. Then ding ding ding, a flurry of level-up alerts floods his screen. He claims the reward granted for conquering the formidable Spider Queen. Our hero, resembling a Marvel character, finally decides to visit his friend after an entire 3 days. But as he steps outside, something crashes violently beside him. He glances upward and reacts with a resolute, "Oh hell no. Get lost, you creepy albino spiders," he shouts fiercely. The problem is he's weaponless, and the man beside him has been utterly devastated. He refuses to abandon his comrade to a grim fate. Flashback to 2 hours earlier on a Tokyo bridge. Inside a car, Soldier Moore Grant, level 112, asks Eris how many times she has visited Japan. She, a level 131 mage, responds that this is only her second visit. He inquires if Japan is her Hmong homeland. She dismisses the question, stating her purpose is singular and clear. She is determined to locate something hidden deep within one of Japan's dungeons. Grant expresses that it would be fantastic if she managed to locate it. However, she cautions him against getting too entangled in her affairs, warning that he could end up seriously hurt. Suddenly, an announcement blares over the intercom. The truck is about to pass through the Rainbow Bridge dungeon, also known as the Rainbow Gate. Whatever you call it, a rainbow, a bridge, a dungeon, all electronics will be shut down for 5 minutes due to the intense electromagnetic waves in the area. Apparently, there's a dungeon lurking right beneath the bridge, and the man is eager to explore it. Meanwhile, in a nearby office, a level 21 hunter named Shinoda Satoru, considered relatively inexperienced, complains about how dull the place is. His companion notes that's likely because he only secured the job through connections. Let's be honest, without some connections, breaking into a place like this would be impossible. Out of nowhere, a small slime bumps against Satoru's leg. He crouches down to pick it up, remarking that this slime is surprisingly cute, definitely better than the creepy ones found inside typical dungeons. Curious, he asks if it's usual to see these little creatures wandering outside. His friend confirms it's normal, though his voice betrays a hint of nervousness. Suddenly, bam, something violently crashes into Satoru's back. He whirls around, and just from the towering shadow, it's clear what's looming. A massive ogre is about to turn him into a smear of jam. Game over for Satoru at that moment. Back to the present. Our resilient Han-jun has survived once more, armed with his dependable Troll C Troll V trick. Now he's setting his sights on reaching level 50, a milestone when the game usually eases up. Decent dungeon parties become accessible, leading to better loot and XP. He was brimming with confidence, feeling that his moment to shine had finally arrived. Without warning, a group suddenly surged past him. They shouted sharply, demanding he clear the way immediately. Puzzled, he tried to make sense of why everyone was rushing about in utter chaos. Up ahead, someone questioned whether they should proceed before the major guilds arrived, to which another responded that they must act quickly because the legendary sword was being transported. News quickly spread there was good news about a sword discovered nearby, but bad news as a dungeon had suddenly erupted in that very area. Atop the association's building, several aircraft were being prepared and readied for immediate launch. The hunters appeared primarily focused on safeguarding the legendary longsword, recognizing its immense value. Then, a voice commanded everyone to follow her instructions. She was the designated leader. The most no-nonsense woman they had seen in days stepped forward, declaring that the association's top priority was to eliminate monsters and rescue civilians. As she boarded the ship, she asserted that all other matters could be addressed afterward. Suddenly, someone from the back cried out, expressing a strong desire to join the mission. Ignoring the outburst, Nana instructed everyone to board the vessel promptly. Of course, it was Han-jun pleading to come along, explaining that he'd been with the guild for 5 years, knew everyone, and although not powerful, was determined to help save innocent lives. She looked at him in disbelief, clearly baffled by what this seemingly hopeless guy thought he could contribute. So there was Han-jun, delivering a heartfelt plea about how every small effort mattered when it came to saving lives. Nana clearly wants to leave rather than argue, so she simply sighs and lets him drone on. Before long, Bam finds himself stepping inside. She casually brings up that she heard he rescued a junior hunter back at the spider nest, implying he's quite the selfless hero, and he acknowledges her comment with thanks. But inwardly, he reminds himself that he only saved that kid because it was profitable, just like now he's here solely for the loot. The other hunters start to discuss, didn't we stabilize the Rainbow Bridge dungeon just 3 weeks ago? Why is it erupting again? Nana remarks that incidents like this are common occurrences. That's precisely why they must always stay vigilant and ready. Their mission is to prevent a repeat of the catastrophic event from 15 years ago. Flashback sequence thanks to Han-jun. Back then, several dungeon gates exploded simultaneously, unleashing chaos. Not enough hunters existed worldwide to quell the outbreak, so monsters wandered unchecked. Amid that turmoil, Han-jun's mother was tragically crushed beneath a car. Yet on that same day, Han-jun encountered a transcendent entity, seemingly from another dimension, triggering his mysterious ability or curse, as it's hard to tell. All the voice said was 20 years, a cryptic message he still can't interpret. Is it the skill's duration, his lifespan, or something else? However, he knows a mark on his neck counts down the time relentlessly. He suspects that this entity's appearance was directly triggered by the Great Disaster. Perhaps the rigid glass-like mark is a countdown to the next catastrophe. If that's true, he has just 5 years left, 5 years to become the most powerful hunter he can be. Back at the bridge, an explosion blasts the gates wide open. Vehicles soar through the air like missiles amid utter chaos. Hunters on the ground are already overwhelmed. There aren't enough of them to keep the civilians safe. A small goblin lunges to stab a child, but the kid retaliates with a sword strike to the goblin's abdomen. Just then, another goblin sneaks up from behind. Suddenly, someone intercepts it with a precise mid-air slice. Wait, those two actually survived the furious orc attack from earlier. They're tougher than they look, no doubt about it. One man warns the pampered rich kid to focus, making clear he won't be saved again next time. Turns out, when the orc was about to crush them both, he pulled the kid out of harm's way with a protective embrace. Barely making the save, Satoru looks on, visibly moved. The guy who saved me twice asks about reinforcements. Though something feels off, they should be arriving soon. For now, the smartest move is to cross the bridge and join forces. No solo heroics until backup arrives. Meanwhile, a massive bear relentlessly hammers a truck. It's a fearsome level 190 monster. Behind it, Grant anxiously asks if the truck can withstand the assault. Iris reassures him she's deploying her peak defensive powers. Even a level 400 beast wouldn't shatter it this easily. Everyone looks up as distant ships approach, believed to be from the Great Sage. No, wait, those aren't the Great Sage's ships. Grant shouts, "Eagle, are you keeping watch?" It turns out they were actually witnessing a colossal dragon named Qasa soaring above. Nana urgently warns everyone to prepare for a devastating blow. The beast begins charging a powerful attack. A massive explosion detonates, striking the ship head-on. The entire bridge trembles violently, then collapses, but wait, where are the guild's ships? Judging by the scene, they appear to be hovering above the dragon. Or maybe not, honestly, it's confusing. One moment we're watching the bridge, the next the ship. The beast launches another fireball, and this one truly impacts the ship, unleashing utter chaos. Combatants leap midair, diving into the fray. Nana has already touched down on the ground. An official announces that the association is now taking control. They all exude confidence, though honestly, these characters look destined for dramatic side story exits. Meanwhile, Nana inquires about a certain hunter. They refer to him as Hanjun, sometimes by his Korean name, other times Japanese. It's confusing, but Nana seems certain this guy won't die here. She then unleashes a hellfire spell that oddly resembles water, yet strikes the boss with pinpoint accuracy. Back to Hanjun, midair he spins a web skill around a lamppost, swinging to safety like a geeky Spider-Man. While everyone else is falling left and right, this guy's still obsessing over replicating the legendary dragon sword. The association teams are making a forceful push across the bridge. Anxiety runs high as they admit the mission is far too perilous for them. No one wants to confront Qasa, but it's the quickest route to sealing the gate. Meanwhile, Hanjun strolls casually amid a battlefield littered with monster corpses, all sliced to pieces. These individual threats were manageable, but the real danger with wolves lies in the fact they never hunt alone. Nearby, Shinoda Satoru is fiercely cutting through enemies, shouting at the top of his lungs. However, his companion from earlier suffered a bite to the ribs and isn't faring well. Hanjun quickly assesses the chaotic scene, attempting to make sense of the situation. He decides it's not his concern, there are far bigger problems demanding his attention. The large man who saved the injured friend earlier warns Hanjun to retreat, insisting survival is impossible here without a top-tier hunter. Suddenly, a colossal paw crashes down mere feet away. An entire pack emerges. These are moon wolves, and though only level 15, they overwhelm by sheer numbers. Satoru may not be the hero of the story, but the guy certainly shows incredible bravery. He shouts that if his senior was injured protecting him, then he'd gladly risk his life defending that senior in return. At that moment, Hanjun recalls the time he rescued a team leader in the spider dungeon. And here we go again, he's about to dive headfirst into danger. A wolf lunges at Hanjun, jaws wide, ready to clamp down. Things look grim. Wait, I expected Hanjun to intervene and save the day. Instead, the kid swiftly turns and decapitates the attacking wolf himself. Another wolf snarls and rushes in from behind. Once more, the kid fends off the assault with remarkable skill. Seems Hanjun really prefers to hold back. Then a third wolf makes a desperate lunge for the back of the kid's neck. Finally, our protagonist arrives just in time, tackling the wolf midair with a powerful shoulder charge. Come on, Hanjun, maybe next time, consider bringing a weapon along. He asks the kid if he's all right after the intense encounter. The boy claims to be, but then urges him to take a closer look around. Despite that, the sheer number of creatures remains overwhelming. The kid warns Hanjun to flee immediately, insisting that even low-level monsters become unmanageable in such vast numbers. Hanjun just smirks, declaring this scenario to be an ideal opportunity for him. The kid, who increasingly feels like Hanjun's younger brother, looks completely baffled. Hanjun retrieves an item from his inventory, admitting he was frustrated he couldn't sell it earlier. But now he's eager to see how well it pairs with his skill set. The wolves leap forward and attack. Zidoro shrieks in terror. At that moment, Hanjun activates a Troll plus V move. He deploys the giant spider web ability, a technique he copied from the boss. Instantly, the wolves become ensnared, struggling and writhing as they crash into one another. They tangle together in a chaotic sprawl resembling a clump of spaghetti and meatballs. Trapped and helpless within moments, the creatures form a massive, intertwined heap while Hanjun stands calmly like a boss, leveling up with satisfaction. Just as he predicted, an area immobilization skill proves perfect against swarms of enemies. Satoru lies there stunned, silently wondering who this extraordinary guy is. He questions if Hanjun is affiliated with the Hunter Association, and Hanjun, not exactly lying, confirms since they were on the same helicopter. The wounded man humbly asks Hanjun to carry Satoru to safety to prevent his death. But naturally, the kid refuses, insisting he won't abandon his senior under any circumstance. Hanjun, impressed by this unwavering loyalty, thinks to himself these guys would sacrifice their lives for each other, something he realizes he could never do. Moved by the moment, he opens his inventory, retrieves a potion, and hands it over to the two. He explains that while the potion isn't enough to let the injured man keep fighting, it will at least prevent him from dying. The wounded man looks at him incredulously, clearly thinking, this potion must be insanely expensive. Hanjun simply responds, I want to see you both make it out alive, take your mentor and go. Sidaru is clearly smitten now. This kid is completely head over heels. Overwhelmed, he thanks Hanjun and introduces himself as Kang Seong. Note, new characters' names remain in Korean while established ones stay in Japanese. Hanjun disregards the pleasantries and starts to walk away without a second thought. Suddenly, he stops, turns around and asks, have you seen the international hunters around here? He knows they are the ones wielding that legendary sword he's searching for. Meanwhile, the massive bear corners the truck, closing in menacingly. Earth effortlessly holds the beast at bay, lulling it into a deep sleep as if it were nothing. Grant is amazed by Earth's impressive array of non-lethal skills. Out of nowhere, a projectile shoots through the air toward them. Reacting instantly, he slices it cleanly in midair. He mutters under his breath that it was only a matter of time before someone tried to snatch the sword amid the chaos. Eris's expression shifts dramatically upon hearing that. A masked group steps forward, acknowledging his sharp senses and warning him to hand over the sword now. But before Grant can respond, the attackers launch their assault. Grant raises his shield, shouting that they won't be easy prey. He reminds them there's a reason they were chosen as guardians of the sword. He orders Eris to retreat, though charges rush in relentlessly. Eris warns him as if everyone already knows he's about to meet his end. He suddenly freezes mid-attack, collapsing to his knees as blood spurts from his mouth. Completely dazed, he stands baffled, unable to grasp what just occurred. Eris reveals they consumed a potion that suppresses mana absorption, meaning any skill he attempts to use now will be fatal. The masked leader praises their efforts, commending their refusal to underestimate their opponents. Eris remarks that resorting to guild-prohibited items signals just how desperate their adversaries have become. A magical circle ignites on her finger as she warns that things are about to become intensely challenging. One enemy launches a fireball at her, mocking the notion of a mage stripped of mana. Making a fatal error, he instantly loses 30% of his head and shoulder in less than a second. Struck down instantly, the man crumples like a heavy weight. The enemy commander begins charging forward, intent on seizing the sword. Meanwhile, their entire group is being mercilessly torn apart. Thrown off the bridge and devoured, their fate is sealed. The masked commander suddenly realizes Eris hasn't slain the monster as expected. Instead, she has only placed it in a forced slumber. The commander flees, abandoning his fallen comrades, while Grant immediately grasps the gravity of the situation. He understands that putting the boss back to sleep simply isn't an option. Eris confirms that her mana reserves are completely depleted and that her prior actions merely disabled the boss's power temporarily. Grant mutters that, as he'd always warned, her aversion to violence might ultimately be her undoing. She smiles softly, retorting that while that may be true, he won't be the one to see her fall. With a sudden surge, she charges ahead, unleashing a powerful, heroic transformation. The man screams in desperation, pleading with her not to go through with it. Yet she charged directly at the bear without hesitation. Clearly, the antimatter poison was still coursing through her veins. She coughed up blood relentlessly as she advanced. Despite pushing forward with determination, she was unable to absorb any energy. Suddenly, the beast lunged forward, swinging its enormous paw toward her with brutal force. That's precisely when someone executed a perfect copy-paste move. Man, just as I was getting hooked, eager to see what would happen next. The chapter then abruptly cut off, leaving everything hanging. I had expected him to infuse her with mana so she could lull the beast back to sleep. Instead, he astonishingly enveloped the boss in a huge web cocoon. Then he slammed it onto the ground. Seriously, that ability is ridiculously overpowered. The creature looked like a fully wrapped mummy now. Once again, Hanjun's companion was utterly awestruck. He lavished praise on Hanjun, declaring him incredible. Hanjun aimed to get both individuals out of danger as quickly as possible, but it wasn't so simple. He inquired about their well-being and whether they were affiliated with the association. Eris appeared puzzled, perhaps unable to comprehend the language he was speaking. Grant immediately stood up and questioned whether Hanjun had come to seize the sword. Hanjun, the master of deception, firmly denied it, asserting he was there to safeguard the sword. Naturally, they were hesitant to trust a stranger right after being ambushed. Surveying the scene, Hanjun finally pieced together the chaotic aftermath of everyone's pursuit of that sword. Honestly, if he managed to escape without being torn apart, he'd consider himself incredibly fortunate. Then Satoru produced their hunter registry and questioned why those who had rescued them were being treated like criminals. Hanjun felt a surge of excitement. Finally, this kid proved to be genuinely useful. The timing couldn't have been more perfect. Hanjun pulled out 2 mana potions, urging them to drink up, clearly aware they were struggling. Those potions had cost countless dungeon runs, but he was willing to gamble everything for a shot at the sword. With no better options, the two reluctantly accepted the potions. He paused briefly before finally agreeing. Meanwhile, Eris kept her gaze firmly fixed on the boss. More association ships soared across the sky above them. At last, the remaining guilds began arriving. The musclehead remarked they were managing fine for now, but those fresh reinforcements would still have to confront the boss standing tall. As she sprinted along the monster's back, she shouted that the boss was on the verge of entering Phase 3. With all the other guilds assembling, the top priority became evacuating every civilian. Suddenly, someone asked when he would finally be free to do as he pleased. A tattooed man wearing glasses called out to Nana. Cool and casual, he introduced himself. Long time no see. Name's Shirsaki Masato, level 503, class Dark Mage. Yeah, this guy definitely had a flair for the dramatic. Nana, innocent and kind-hearted, asked why he had come. He just shrugged, replying, "Isn't it obvious?" She warned him not to proceed. But it was already too late. An enormous magical circle had materialized beneath his feet. Even as the circle took shape, she desperately pleaded with him not to cast the spell, fearing that if it failed to kill the boss, things were about to spiral dramatically out of control. The man remarked that her tendency to fret over minor details would prevent her from ever advancing. His plan was to take down that creature alone and secure a dozen rare high-tier drops. Suddenly, a black lightning spell erupted, enveloping the boss in a tempest of energy and flames, lifting it into the air. Nana shouted urgently for everyone to flee. At that moment, the floor beneath them began to fracture and crumble. The bridge gave way once more, and everything started plummeting into the abyss below. Hanjun suddenly appeared, looking harmless and unscathed. At least he was still alive, which was a relief. He even managed to deploy his web skill just in time to rescue the 4 comrades who narrowly avoided falling. But the instant he scrambled onto Bam, he came face to face with the boss's enormous, menacing jaws. He hesitated, wondering whether the beast was already dead or if someone else had captured it before him. Just then, Masato arrived and told him that despite being a low-level hunter, he'd accomplished quite a bit. Spotting the emblem emblazoned on his chest, Hanjun immediately recognized him as a member of Future Guild, one of the nation's elite top 3. With remarkable courage, our guy even challenged Masato by asking why he wasn't assisting with civilian evacuations. I was certain he would be shut down harshly, as if to say, "Just who do you think you are, rookie?" But to my surprise, Masato calmly explained that all civilians had already been safely evacuated. Meanwhile, Kiwashi looked utterly lifeless and barely hanging on. He approached the spider web, clearly impressed. He hadn't expected it to be used so ingeniously. Without warning, all of Hanjun's webs began to disintegrate. Simultaneously, the bear-like boss was torn to shreds. Naturally, Hanjun was terrified. After all, Masato had only wiggled a single finger to bring this devastation about. But since Hanjun was the one who managed to immobilize it, he immediately begins leveling up at an astonishing pace. Additionally, he receives a reward for successfully taking down the bear. Masato, hearing the sounds of leveling up, asks if Hanjun was the one who had restrained the creature. Surprised that Hanjun pulled it off, Masato definitely hadn't expected him to be the one apologizing for stealing the kill. Dropping a claw to the ground, he tells Hanjun to keep it, insisting that taking kills isn't part of his job. Just as Hanjun is about to respond, Bam Nana arrives, calling out his name. She's visibly relieved and joyful, simply grateful that he's alive. Masato notices the familiarity between them and deduces that Hanjun is likely affiliated with the association, which only makes him like the kid less. Nana asks if anything happened, and Hanjun just shrugs it off with a casual "nothing much." Then she requests assistance in moving the creature, which puzzles him. Wouldn't it be simpler to just kill it? She explains that once the boss enters Phase 2, it'll transform into a relentless berserker, attacking without pause. Worse still, because of its massive size, it might even have a Phase 3. That would essentially spell total destruction for the entire city. As Hanjun absorbs this information, his gaze remains fixed on the beast. Suddenly, the monster's eye snaps open and locks directly onto them. While Nana reels in fear, Masato is exhilarated. He declares that this means he's finally going to earn a bigger reward. Strangely, Nana turns to say she's confident Hanjun will survive. But Four Eyes over here says there's no way that kid's dying time to focus on the boss. They both charge forward while she shouts at Han Jun to run. Han Jun picks up a fallen horn, declaring he hadn't intended to get involved. But now, it seems he must dominate Kyusha before those two do. Hold on, my guy just suddenly got a lot braver. Ever the cheerleader, Satoru reappears, questioning why he returned. Eris monitors the webs intently. When Han Jun asks her for a favor, it's clear the situation is critical. Kurish is about to enter Phase 3, and when it does, it will unleash a devastating attack on Eris that could obliterate everything. If that happens, countless lives will be lost and the sword itself will disappear. That's why he needs to borrow the sword to defeat the boss and prevent catastrophe. He vows to return it promptly after use, allowing time to copy it first, of course. He tries explaining countless ways, but Eris insists it's impossible. Opening the truck requires a massive amount of mana, which they simply don't have at the moment. Grant notices something she didn't refuse outright. She said it's impossible because of their mana shortage. And if there's one thing Han Jun excels at, it's generating mana supply. Without hesitation, he begins pouring mana into her. Eris flushes, bewildered by the sensation flooding her. Hey now, don't make it awkward, he jokes. With that, the seal on the truck breaks effortlessly. Han Jun leaps in, shouting his thanks and assuring he'll honor his promise. Grant understandably feels anxious. Either the kid will abscond with the sword or perish alongside it, both outcomes dire. Still, Eris trusts him, especially since he restrained the bear instead of killing it. However, Grant's approval alone doesn't provide sufficient grounds to trust someone. At last, Han Jun swings open the truck's door and steps inside to seize the legendary sword. But predictably, bam, one of the thieves appears silently behind him. Without warning, he plunges a blade deep into Han Jun's abdomen. From above, his two teammates scream out in terror. Meanwhile, those two level 100 henchmen stand motionless, like lifeless NPCs. Our hero collapses into the truck bed, as if thrown away like refuse. The thief bursts open the crate, laughing triumphantly as he claims the sword at last. Yet as Han Jun's consciousness fades, his spider web ability mysteriously deactivates. Suddenly, the truck detaches from the bridge and crashes violently into the river below. Could it be that the comeback move, Ctrl+V, is about to trigger? In an instant, Han Jun materializes directly behind the unsuspecting thief. Without uttering a word, he delivers a fierce thrust to the thief's shoulder. The thief collapses helplessly like a ragdoll, and finally the sword falls into Han Jun's grasp. His immediate instinct is to try copying the sword using Ctrl+C. But an error flashes, user level too low to replicate this item. I had a bad feeling this would happen. There's simply no chance he can copy a legendary sword at level 30. The sword's rarity and power make it impossible to duplicate without the required level. Before Han Jun can react, the man he had stabbed rises again and drives the blade into his back once more. Seriously, does this guy also have the ability to copy and paste, like Ctrl+C and Ctrl+V? The man regenerates at an unnatural pace, like some kind of unstoppable creature. To make matters worse, he reaches once again for the sword. This time, it's clear he intends to finish Han Jun off for good. Already racked with pain, Han Jun wonders if his Ctrl+V ability is still functioning. Suddenly, the Dagon system message appears, triggered by interaction with a legendary sword skill. It reveals that the skill absorption has been successfully copied, boosting defense by 35%, granting lifesteal, and unlocking a powerful berserker mode. With Han Jun's health dropping to just 25%, the system automatically switches on berserker mode to enhance his combat capabilities. Meanwhile, atop the bridge, Kodashi is gathering energy, preparing to unleash yet another devastating mega attack. Masato and Nana are fighting desperately but struggling to hold the enemy at bay under the mounting pressure. Suddenly, an object hurtles from the center of the bridge, catching everyone's attention. Before the attack can fully launch, it's abruptly severed in half by a swift strike. No way, that had to be our guy making that decisive move. The system confirms it. Kyusha is defeated and the dungeon cleared. Although he didn't manage to copy the overpowered sword granting plus 230 levels, he did successfully absorb its skills. Back at the Hunter Association headquarters, the whole place buzzes with news about the bridge incident. Despite the crisis being resolved in under 2 hours, the media remains filled with persistent criticism. Meanwhile, in Fukuoka, a guide closely monitors the unfolding events. The president of Japan's Hunter Association, a level 570 priest, switches off the TV, declaring that they will thoroughly investigate how Kyusha was ultimately defeated. Nearby, Takuchi-gu arrives, his body covered in tattoos reminiscent of Mike Tyson, boasting a formidable level 701. He admits his curiosity, likening the situation to crashing a party where you know no one and must quickly meet everyone. Next up is Shinoda Makoto, a level 610 healer from another guild, confirming that key players are now converging on the scene. It's clear that a turf war is brewing over the rights to farm that dungeon, which technically falls under Great Sage's claim. Bruno's guild chats with Nana's team, who can't help but comment on Nana's sharp look in that suit. She's channeling a full-on businesswoman vibe now. Suddenly, the imposing Mr. Tattoo Mike Tyson strides in, brimming with arrogance, accusing her guild of botching the creature's handling. Nana exhales deeply and slams her hand down fiercely on the table. The entire room tenses. She didn't just knock, she shattered the whole meeting table with that strike. Masato quickly raised a protective barrier, just in case Nana's anger turned physical. Everyone exchanged uneasy glances, silently questioning if Nana was alright. Spoiler alert, emotionally stable, she absolutely was not. Meanwhile, Takuchi began to lose his composure as well, the tension escalating. Then someone called Takuchi's name, breaking the growing turmoil. It was the association leader who stepped forward, urging everyone to settle down and offering an apology on Nana's behalf. Takuchi warned that if Nana continued acting this way, she was flirting with death. Confusing, since he's over level 700 and she's just in the 200s. But this just proved that raw gust levels don't tell the whole story. Ignoring him completely, Nana rose and declared she would personally explain what truly happened on the bridge. After all, he had been present too, making him a reliable witness. He admitted he hadn't seen much in terms of rewards, so he wasn't convinced that the kill was legitimate. The leader attempted to maintain diplomacy, suggesting that Masato's presence likely helped to minimize the damage. There was an awkward applause as Ku acknowledged the statement, while Masato seethed silently. It was clear Masato felt something vital was missing from the story. His anger bubbled over, vowing to make Nana pay for the humiliation she caused him. And naturally, he was also eager to get revenge on whoever had stolen his Kyuasha. Kill our guy, without a doubt. No one understands why he's so furious, but Nana vows to personally investigate every detail of what transpired in the dungeon. She also promises to interrogate every guild that hesitated to send reinforcements. With confidence, she strides away like a true leader, declaring the matter closed. At that moment, Grant and Eris enter the room, bringing fresh information about the recent events. Grant announces that amidst the chaos, the legendary sword has been stolen. He emphasizes the necessity of full cooperation, handing over a folder containing an official request from the International Association. Takuchi, skeptical, remarks that he heard they were the ones who initially unsealed the sword. Eris confirms this but adds that they were assisted by two hunters, Sano Hanjun and Shinoda Satoru. The news prompts a wave of excitement among everyone. Wait, our guy Hanjun is still alive along with the sword. With his sidekick involved, everyone scrambles to uncover who this Hanjun really is. The leader claims he knows Satoru, but admits to having no clue about this Hanjun fellow. Meanwhile, Nana holds back her words, fully aware of exactly who that scoundrel is. Beside her, Masato grins widely, poised and ready to exact his revenge. He asks Eris if she's referring to the individual who wielded the Queen Spider's web technique. He mentions seeing the young fighter struggle during the battle, but is convinced the kid belonged to the association. He also distinctly recalls seeing Nana engaged in conversation with him. Elsewhere, someone examines the sword intently and asks, "Is this the Kalisha's sword you managed to steal?" A man named Kurosaki Takumi, level 301, stares at it, utterly amazed. This sword doesn't just boost your level by 200 points simply by holding it. Wait, so you're actually at level 101 now? Sneaky little trickster. Kurosaki remarks that spending millions to collapse the dungeon and force the boss to appear was definitely a worthwhile move. Even the masked man looks bewildered. He's the one who triggered this entire chaos. Kurosaki demands to understand why he ended up losing all his allies in the process. Immediately, the defeated man collapses to his knees, begging forgiveness and explaining they ran into a strange individual who's already been eliminated. You can tell this poor soul just handed over critical details about what happened. There's no chance he's walking away unscathed. A briefcase stuffed with cash lies on the floor, and Kurosaki tells him to take it and live life on his own terms. The man celebrates as if he's won the jackpot, but with every bill in that case, I'm betting he's about to get off easy. Kurosaki casually asks, "You're not thinking of selling the sword's secrets once you leave, are you?" The man leaps up, replying with indignation, "No way, I'd never betray you like that." He backs away frantically, raving that the leader was a ruthless bastard who intended to kill them all from the start. At that moment, Kurosaki slashes him down, muttering that fewer people knowing is better. He certainly doesn't want any unwanted visitors showing up. The unfortunate man crashes hard against the wall, and then he's cleaved in half. So yeah, anyone who placed bets against me, hand over the money now. Just one slash has reduced the sword's durability from 10 to 2. What the hell? That means it can only withstand about 4 more cuts at most. In the following scene, Harglass emerges quietly, whispering a reminder that this was meant to be a gift. Abruptly, Hanjun jolts awake in his bed, his heart pounding with panic. A fierce burning sensation flares from the tattoo-like mark etched on his neck. He wonders anxiously if the cursed symbol is stirring trouble once again. Suddenly, Satoru the unyielding menace leaps forward and embraces him tightly, exclaiming he feared Hanjun had perished. Satoru rambles nervously about a massive ocean assault that annihilated the boss. Another equally disheveled man in the room asks if they were at the bridge. Hanjun is utterly exhausted by the conversation. Rising to his feet, Hanjun remarks that the man seems too energetic for someone who nearly died. He heads off to rest while the man on the bed comments that beneath it all, the kid had only wanted to help. It turns out that Satoru was the one who rescued Hanjun just before Nana and the others arrived. Suddenly, Hanjun recalls a crucial piece of information. His guild leader is Shinoda Makoto, and this young man is Shinoda Satoru. Yet he quickly dismisses the thought. There is no way this fragile-looking kid is related to that powerful figure. Switching scenes, we arrive at the Hunter Association's office. Nana inquires solemnly whether the main character is truly deceased. Grant confirms the death and observes that Nana doesn't seem particularly shocked. She responds matter-of-factly, stating that Hunter fatalities are, unfortunately, not uncommon. The association's leader adds that they have reached out to multiple guilds to assist in recovering the sword. Eris contributes that they will require elite hunters, as she has already pinpointed the sword's whereabouts. The leader praises Eris, admitting he expected her team to be competent but hadn't anticipated such exceptional skill. He was surprised that they already knew the sword's location. She explained that the sword emits a distinct energy signature that only she can detect. Nana pointed out that before these events unfolded, no one had accurate intelligence about the sword, making it easy to notice if someone tried to steal it. That's precisely why they allowed Hanjun to wield it. Eris quickly reminded them that the sword only has 10 durability points, and since it has already been used, it might soon break completely and vanish, taking with it the only clue she has to find her mother, who disappeared 15 years ago. Both of them were visibly taken aback. Nana pulled out a file and said she wasn't the only one digging into people's backgrounds. She knows Eris has been holding onto that sword because it represents her sole hope of locating her missing mother. Suddenly, Eris stood up. At first, she expected Eris to erupt in anger, but instead, Eris calmly asked Nana for help, insisting they couldn't allow the sword to disappear. Cut to the hallway where Nana, the shrewd businesswoman, walks thoughtfully down the corridor, sensing that those two are concealing something. Honestly, the whole story about Hanjun, the hunter, dying didn't add up. He never seemed like someone who'd simply give up. Just then, Shinoda appeared, asking why she looked so gloomy. She dismissed it with a shrug and asked what brought him there. He insists that it's time for her to return to the Sage Guild. This man is almost certainly the guild master and clearly has a connection to Satoru after all. His name is Shinoda Makoto, and the boy is Shinoda Satoru. Nana replies that the number of dungeons keeps growing, and they're losing hunters at an alarming rate. Meanwhile, the other guilds offer no assistance. They've shifted focus to becoming companies, capitalizing on fame for profit. The bridge disaster proved none were prepared to act when it truly counted, which is precisely why she refuses to return. She has too many responsibilities with the association, then abruptly drops the subject. Wait, so she's Satoru's sister and this man is her father. The entire family's getting involved. Now all that's missing is a son-in-law. And hey, I know just the guy who might fit the role. Makoto laughs softly, telling her not to stress so much. Still, he advises her to at least visit the hospital before heading back. Speaking of hospitals, let's cut back to Hanjun. My guy's already reached level 76, what the heck? He's become the undisputed king of level-ups. He's a bit of a slacker, he couldn't replicate the sword, but the skills he acquired more than compensated, especially that berserker mode. That mode saved his life. Not only did the sword grant him a temporary 200 level boost, but berserker mode also doubled all his stats. That's how he was able to slice through a level 400 monster. For this feat, he earned a remarkably intriguing reward. It turns out Hanjun managed to absorb Kyuishi's shockwave attack. Following that, the system upgraded the ability, transforming it into a brand new skill called Resident Frequency. On top of that, his spider web skill advanced to level 2. This means that whenever he activates it now, he can seamlessly combine spider web with shockwave and lifesteal simultaneously. So yeah, our guy in the elevator is feeling unstoppable. Not only is he stacking skills, but the team can sense their synergy naturally. Oh, and check this out, his level is 76 plus an additional 200. Editor, bring that status window back on screen for the squad. Everyone see this? Hope the editor nailed it. That little gremlin better have listened, because when I said he copied the sword's effect, I thought it was just the skills. Nope, he also copied the 200 level buff, which explains why he's shredding through the elevator like an absolute badass, proudly calling himself an elite level 276 hunter. Then he hears a familiar voice shouting across the hospital lobby. It's Nana, berating someone for failing to evacuate despite her warnings about the danger. Our guy ducks instinctively. He had no idea she could be so intimidating. And seriously, what's she doing at the hospital? Turns out it's Satoru getting scolded. He even calls her Winnie-chan, big sis, blaming her for not properly handling the monster. That's when Han-jun finally connects the dots. Her name is Nana Shinoda. Everyone seems to be a Shinoda, damn it. Now it all clicks why the strong guy was so determined to keep Sito alive, and why Nana is fiercely protective of this kid. Then she asks a direct question about Han-jun, wanting to know if he's here. Our protagonist deliberately stays under the radar, having feigned membership in the association upon arrival. No one suspects his true identity. To them, he's an anonymous nobody from her guild, perceived as a mere weakling. He attempts to quietly slip away, only to unexpectedly collide with someone. So you managed to survive, comes the grim greeting. Oh no, it's Grant. Grant accuses him of being the infamous sword thief. Perfectly terrible timing. While our main character tries to vanish without a trace, Grant is already gearing up for a confrontation's second round. Grant seizes him by the collar, slamming him against the wall. Whoa, chill out, he warns. Though no sword is visible, Grant has already deduced the truth and demands to know why Haruto impersonated an association member. Han-jun attempts an explanation, but Grant cuts him off, accusing him of colluding with the thieves. Suddenly, Han-jun realizes Grant is deaf to reason and won't hear him out. Grant pulls a sword out from a portal, preparing to strike. Just then, Eris arrives, shouting for Grant to stop. Don't launch an attack like that here, she warns. But Grant, furious, insists he won't rest until this kid is dead. Hold on, Blondie, Eris counters. Our protagonist might need to press Ctrl+C to pause this escalating chaos right now, activating his innate frequency detection. Grant's sword shatters immediately. Nearby, Nana and Satoru overhear everything unfolding. Now Nana is left utterly stunned, her jaw dropping in disbelief. Wait, is our protagonist wielding Koichi's unique ability? Scene shifts dramatically to what resembles an electrifying K-pop concert stage. A girl dances fiercely, sweat glistening on her glowing abs as a crowd of devoted fans cheers wildly. The next moment, she's hopping into a car, sprinting off. Her name is Arita Sarah, an idol group member, but wait, is she also a hunter? They haven't even revealed her level yet. She bids farewell to her treasured friends who admire her. Then she leaps into her Ferrari and speeds away. The girls begin whispering, wondering if she's wealthy from a famous family and questioning where she's headed in such a flashy car. Sarah presses the accelerator hard, taking a sharp bend at full speed. She nearly collides with a Jeep blocking her path. Slamming on the brakes abruptly, she barely manages to avoid the crash. Leaning out the window, she shouts angrily, telling the driver to watch where they're going. The driver steps out of the vehicle. To her shock, it's Kurosaki Takumi, longsword stealer himself. Instantly, Sarah falls silent. She clearly recognizes him as he casually drops a sword onto her Ferrari, as if it were mere junk mail. Referring to the concert, he mentions that if she's willing, they're headed to a dungeon and things could return to how they used to be. Though it's unclear what their history is, she clearly isn't pleased to see him. The scene cuts to the building where Han-jun strikes Grant with a powerful shockwave. Unfortunately, the building is now deserted. They arrived too late. Nana asks if that means they'll have to wait until the sword is used again to track its location. A heavy silence follows, saying everything without words. Suddenly, our guy shouts out, "The Blood Tower," the phrase the man who stabbed him murmured while unconscious. No one seems to know what it means. It's probably a reference to some secretive shadow organization. Grant grows increasingly anxious, warning that the sword's power won't last much longer if they keep delaying. Nana reassures him not to fret, as she knows someone who holds critical information on all these mysterious factions. A little girl crawled across the floor, carrying with her a power granted by a mysterious entity 15 years ago. At first, she believed she was just another awakened hunter. But soon she discovered that her ability was far more enigmatic and profound. Are you ready for this? She possessed the power of Control plus Z, that's right, the ability to undo her mistakes instantly. Now I'm curious, is there anyone out there with the power of Alt plus F4? Though I suppose that command only works one time, her first move was quite strategic. She began purchasing heaps of discarded items, meticulously restoring them before selling them again. Even though it wasn't a traditional healing skill, it proved lucrative. She was making solid income just by repairing things for others. So I get it now, her talent isn't about healing per se, but more about reverting people to a prior state. That makes sense. But it leaves me wondering, does this ability have limitations? What truly happens when she activates it? The young girl did everything in her power to earn money, as her parents lay hospitalized in critical condition. She attempted to restore her parents to full health, but she soon realized she required far more mana than she currently possessed. With her limited mana, the best she could manage was to mend minor injuries, which is why she dedicated herself to increasing her mana reserves. She ventured into dangerous dungeons working as a porter, and whenever someone was injured, she would step up and pose as a healer to help them. However, those who awaken with unique talents instead of becoming true hunters face far greater challenges surviving in dungeons. One day, she asked a man to trade some of his mana for a discount, essentially a bargain with Gojo for a little energy. He responded bluntly, questioning why she was always pleading. Being a lone girl navigating dungeons meant she was constantly targeted by unsavory men trying to take advantage. They never imagined she would split them cleanly in two. Then an unexpected voice breaks the silence. It's none other than the infamous Snake himself. It's Kurosaki Takumi, and yes, there's no doubt that's definitely Erita Sarah, the idol from earlier. He casually throws gifts around her home like it's Christmas, while questioning where all her earnings have gone. He mocks her home as pathetic, yet behind her lies an entire mountain of champagne bottles as she munches on sushi from a delivery app, a scene many can relate to. I'm broke too, Kurosaki, she retorts, shading him for finding it odd that an idol would order takeout 3 times daily. Without skipping a beat, he answers his own question. She eats whatever she desires, and whenever she puts on weight, she simply hits Control plus Z to undo it. He observes she's always been like this. After all, the day someone was dying before her eyes, she stole their shield to sell it. He's firmly convinced she shares his ruthless nature. Yet again, she looks utterly displeased to be involved with this man. She tells him plainly that she couldn't care less about the nature of this job. Her sole question, why must it be a dungeon this time? Why not simply bring her the mana as he usually does? That's when he reveals the Calicious sword, explaining she must retrieve it herself because the mana cost to do so remotely is astonishing. He assures her not to worry, this will be her final dungeon excursion. Surprised, Arya asks if he's finally discovered the legendary infinite mana generator. He replies no, but hints that such an item might yet appear and urges her to venture in just one last time. To be honest, it sounds more like she's about to fix that sword and then sacrifice herself. Cut to a futuristic world set far ahead in time. Our protagonist Han Jun is there alongside Nana, puzzled by how these people seem better informed than even the top guilds. Nana clarifies that when it comes to knowledge about dungeons and the desire to eliminate them, no one has superior intelligence than this individual. Inside the meeting room stands Masato. Yes, the cocky guy with Scarface and glasses himself, discussing the much-rumored infinite mana generator. Apparently, in this world, infinite mana is just a routine thing, like an old, broken cheat code everyone casually accepts. Nana mentions that from what she knows, this item sometimes appears as a reward from the Golem Snow Mountain dungeon, although the boss there is notoriously difficult to defeat. Shirosuke agrees, explaining they are assembling an entire team specifically to gather more intelligence. During their investigation, they come across a faction called Blood Tower. Although unfamiliar with them, he learns that they are targeting the same snowy golem dungeon. At first glance, they appear like any ordinary team. However, they're much more ruthless than expected. They don't hesitate to kill, assassinate, and loot rival dungeon parties. To Han Jun, an infinite mana item holds no value, unlike practically everyone else in the world. What puzzles him is the connection to the sword. Why target the golem? Perhaps they intend to use the sword to slay the dungeon boss. But with the sword's low durability, are you sure it's more valuable than some mana item? Nana wonders if the Blood Tower group has already located the boss. otherwise, why else would they be on the move? Eris quickly interjects, insisting there's no way the dungeon was found 15 years ago, yet the item remains undiscovered. Our protagonist is about to ask how she knows such details, but she stops him abruptly, saying, "I'll explain, just relax." She reveals she's been researching this extensively for quite some time. She explains the Snow Mountain dungeon's fearsome reputation. It's among the most dangerous dungeons, causing many hunters to outright refuse entry. Masato adds that such isolated locations are favorite traps for assassin groups to ambush prey, making him confident something valuable is concealed there. Our main character questions when these assassins are expected to act, learning that their operations are imminent, having just completed recruitment. As Han Jun predicted, this plan has been meticulously organized over a long period. Nana urges that they must move swiftly if that's truly the case. She turns to Masato, inquiring if he has a strike team prepared for immediate deployment. With a hand over his chest, Masato replies, "Absolutely not." Nana presses, reminding him that the future guild always maintains a backup team on standby for emergency dungeon missions, just like when he appeared at the bridge that day. Masato, looking a bit embarrassed, acknowledges she's well informed, but not all her info is accurate. In truth, he lacks a ready team capable of handling such a perilous mission on short notice. He emphasizes this isn't any ordinary dungeon, it's the notorious Snow Mountain, teeming with formidable golems. Though to be fair, the golems are only level 40, which doesn't sound too intimidating on paper. Nevertheless, Masato is already out there with a full squad, and guess who's leading the charge? Our teammate Han Jun leads the charge, relentlessly shattering golems, but they swiftly regenerate and launch fierce counterattacks. Masato grumbles, "This is exactly why I despise these kinds of places." Suddenly, a wizard-like figure from the slums, resembling someone straight out of Harry Potter, brandishes his wand. He conjures all the golems into a single cluster, then splits them apart and detonates them with devastating force. Red gem shards cascade from the sky. "These are the cores," he shouts. "Destroy the cores at once." "That's the true way to kill a golem," Oscar, whoever he is, boasts as he punches the ground, lauding the wizard like a savior. Meanwhile, our main character stands idle, gripping his small sword, completely inactive. Earlier, Eris had explained that once inside the dungeon, they needed to eliminate as many golems as possible. This was the condition required to trigger the mini-boss. She discovered this type of dungeon is termed an induction dungeon. Han Jun, and honestly us too, have no real understanding of what that actually means. Masato chimes in, expressing his disdain for both, noting it's essentially a dungeon embedded within another dungeon. In a typical hunt, you can bypass weak zones and head straight to the boss to save time. But induction dungeons require clearing every section to unlock the next, and if you slip up even once, you lose access to the remaining areas. Eris adds that 15 years ago, a catastrophic failure caused a rupture inside this dungeon, and since then, nothing is truly known about what lies within. Or even if anything will appear at all. That's why you must not only kill the golems, but do so swiftly and decisively. Their rival team is also racing to secure the key, so they must outpace them to claim it first. Back in the heat of battle, Han Jun radiates confidence now that he wields the sword. He quickly executes the spider web skill with a precise Control plus V command. And just like that, one of the golems is utterly obliterated. Onlookers stare in disbelief, wondering if he just unleashed a boss-level spell. Even Eris joins in, freezing golems with ice magic, while more swiftly finishes them off. Another golem charges relentlessly at the defenseless side characters. They're absolutely doomed against that assault. But then she makes a dramatic entrance. Without throwing a single punch, she arrives solely to make an impression. She taps her palm and triggers Quilicia's shockwave attack. Hold on, she has that skill too. I thought Han Jun was supposed to be the only one with it. She checks in on everyone, asking if they're all okay. Though they all nod, she notices someone in the group struggling to conceal their face. She immediately calls the person out, and sure enough, it's Satoru once again. Here comes the chaos incarnate. Gremlin tries to defend himself, claiming he's officially joined Han Jun's group, so naturally, he's present. Wait, since when did Han Jun have an entire group? Flashback to the hospital, when Han Jun declared he was heading into the dungeon. Satoru threw a full-blown tantrum, begging to accompany Senpai on one last hunt, refusing to let him go alone. The moment Han Jun agreed, Satoru's face lit up like a character straight out of a shoujo anime. But Han Jun made him promise that if he joined, it'd be strictly as a member of his team. Back in the dungeon, Nana remains clueless about Han Jun's true intentions. Satoru tells her she needs to show more respect to Senpai. He boldly says right to her face, "I saw it with my own eyes. The one who sliced Kyuisha in half was Han Jun." Nana begins to wonder if he might be right, noticing that ever since their last encounter, Han Jun appears noticeably stronger. His spider webs now burst with power reminiscent of Kokshis's formidable skills. Perhaps the story holds some truth, but the real mystery is how this transformation happened. Meanwhile, in a different part of the dungeon, the unlikely duo, the K-pop idol Arita Sarah and the charmingly rogue sword thief Kurosaki Takumi, stand together. Perched atop a mountain ledge, they observe the chaos and struggle raging below among the other adventurers. Their entire team lurks nearby, masquerading as another raid party, patiently waiting to strike at the perfect moment and turn the tide with disruption. However, their challenge lies in the presence of two high-level hunters within the main group, making any stealthy approach impossible. Still, if they keep their distance, they might successfully execute their plan without detection. Kurosaki emphasizes to the team that efficiency is the fundamental principle guiding their guild's actions. He then turns to Arita, inquiring whether she has accumulated sufficient mana. Apparently, the mana-charging devices he provided her are extravagantly costly. Fully charging a single one demands defeating over 100 monsters. He recalls the dungeon rupture incident at the bridge, which he caused by overloading countless units of these devices. Arita's only worry is straightforward. How many of these devices will we need to fully restore the sword? He responds, "At least 20. She questions, "So, are we just going to stay hidden here until then?" He confirms with a nod, "Yes, that's the plan. Especially since the next dungeon section is shielded by a barrier that only a Kalisha dragon sword can cut through." Arita grows suspicious and asks exactly where you learned that information. He tells her to drop the questioning since she won't get any details. She sighs, finding his plans always strange. But after catching a sharp glare from Kurosaki, she quickly apologizes, saying she was only joking. As long as they secure a contract, she doesn't care what actions he takes. Her true objective is clearly the Infinite Man item, with hopes of finally restoring her mother and father. Amid the fierce battle, our hero remarks they've already defeated more than 200 golems, yet progress feels elusive. Another core drops from an ogre. He picks it up, but this one feels oddly different and unsettling. Suddenly, it slips right through his grasp and falls to the floor all on its own. At that moment, Masato steps forward, declaring the process has officially started. They've completed the first phase of subjugation. Now it's time to move into the second zone. It's time to confront the mini-boss of Snow Mountain, a level 150 shifting golem, a massive and intimidating behemoth. It suddenly charges in, slapping half the squad like they're indebted to him. Masato orders an immediate full retreat. The creature shatters on impact, but given it's called the shifting golem, you can be sure it's going to come back. And just as expected, it quickly reforms and resumes its assault. Masato lands another blow, but each time it breaks apart, its core darts away and conceals itself elsewhere, before reconstructing a fresh body around the core anew. Our protagonist devises a plan to halt the core's movement by ensnaring it with his spider web. He presses Ctrl+V, delivering a precise strike that catches the golem in the midst of its regeneration. But the golem effortlessly reassembles itself, shrugging off the attack. The web proves ineffective, and now they must find a way to destroy the golem before its scattered parts can rejoin. Someone shouts a warning, urging our hero to get out of harm's way. As he turns, Nana unleashes a powerful blue explosion directly into the golem's chest. The golem barely reacts, immune to both physical and magical assaults alike. Nana suggests they must coordinate their attacks in unison to stand a chance. Masato responds with a dry, "No kidding," acknowledging the obvious. Our main character begins to grasp why everyone steers clear of this dungeon. Eris had warned him, this mini-boss is the dungeon's lethal hazard, and because it's an induction dungeon, there's no option to bypass it. To make matters worse, the core absorbs the corpses of defeated golems, granting it nearly limitless health. Masato explains that they're battling not just this boss, but also the revived enemies they've already slain. The immense time and effort required is why most hunters avoid this place, but they have no other choice. To reach the final boss, this formidable foe must be defeated first. Nana outlines two options: destroy the core or erase all the previously fallen foes they've defeated. Back in the battle, the boss becomes engulfed in fierce blue flames. Judging by the sweat on Nana's brow, the situation is rapidly deteriorating. Behind her, the creature begins reconstructing itself once again. She barely manages to turn in time and unleashes another powerful fire spell to counterattack. Our protagonist wants to intervene, but using the sword's abilities would instantly alert Eris, who knows its secrets too well. He remains cautious. No one in this realm must discover his clever Control+C and Control+V tactic. Then he recalls the item he retrieved from the bear on the bridge still in his possession. Its primary ability temporarily paralyzes targets, while its secondary skill inflicts continuous damage over time. He initiates a Control+C, Control+V maneuver on that potent artifact. Better yet, he layers it over his spider web, enhancing the trap so it not only emits a shockwave but also restrains foes with bear-like grip strength. On top of that, the bear's secondary power saps both mana and health from the enemies ensnared. He charges forward, finally prepared to deal significant damage. Meanwhile, Nana stands solitary amidst a blazing inferno. Grant watches in amazement, questioning whether she's genuinely attempting to melt every fragment of that golem. Yet again, the golem begins to reassemble itself just behind her. Undeterred, she unleashes another massive blast of flames. Seriously, where is she drawing all this mana from? But the golem strides through the flames unscathed and prepares a devastating punch. It seems her mana is finally beginning to dwindle. Yet when a loved one is threatened, it's time for a hero to rise. Our hero steps in, wrapping the monster tightly like a cocoon and flexing with determination. Even Nana and Masato are stunned as he immobilizes a mini-boss effortlessly. Nana snaps out of her disbelief, yelling at him to stop posing and start attacking already. At that moment, Han Jun reveals he has discovered a method to prevent the core from escaping. Masato chooses to stay silent rather than engage in an argument. He grumbles, "Fine, but just wait, you'll regret bossing me around later." He unleashes a massive flame spell, causing the golem to start crumbling apart. At that exact moment, the core reveals itself. Synchronize Control+V on the web target instantly. But this time, combined with the bear's claws, the web doesn't simply trap, it transforms. The web shifts into a snarling maw lined with sharp teeth. That biting mouth clamps down firmly, sealing the core in place. Masato instantly recognizes the technique. It's the bear's signature skill, but he's ingeniously adapted it into something devastatingly effective. Nana begins connecting the dots. He wielded the Queen Spider's powers. He was present alongside that other fighter. And he also took part in the battle at the bridge during the Kyuisha confrontation. Though she starts to wonder if he's the mysterious Control+C, Control+V figure, she's just relieved he always arrives exactly when they need help. Eris even praises him, igniting the entire team's spirit. They finally have a real chance to shatter the core. However, the one observing nearby who wasn't thrilled was Kurosaki Takumi's subordinate. Even Arita found himself puzzled, wondering how that kid managed to immobilize the core. The real issue was they needed it moving to keep gathering mana there. Then Shinoda declared they must abandon the current plan, instructing everyone to fall into new positions. Unseen by all, the masked group stealthily crept up behind everyone without raising suspicion. Arita questioned whether it was truly necessary for him to get personally involved. He explained that the situation had become more complex due to that unusual kid obstructing the nucleus's movement.